So, it's that time in the season where we all do our predictions for the upcoming football year. And in today's video, I'm going to give you my 25-26 League One predictions with a slight twist. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I don't like doing predictions before the season starts because of this ongoing transfer window. I am a strong believer in a signing can pretty much change the way your season is going to plan out. And like a lot of teams in the league in this upcoming season, they are going to make signings after the first game, which means they might change where they're going to finish by the end of the year. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to categorise which teams I think are going to finish where. So we'll talk about the teams that I think are going to get relegated, the potential teams that are going to be in a relegation battle, the teams that I think are going to finish mid-table, the playoff chasers, the teams that I think are going to finish in the playoffs, and also the teams that I think are going to win promotion automatically. So that's how I'm going to go about it. I'm going to kind of just put teams in rough areas in the table where I think they're going to finish. And then after the summer window, I will do an updated predictions and actually put teams in a place in the table, which is how it should be done after the recruitment has completely finished, not before the season starts. But that's my little rant over. Here we go with this upcoming League One predictions for the 25-26 season. Also, please smash the like button. Let me know your predictions down in the video comments and subscribe for more EFL content on my channel. So the first club that I have relegated from League One is Exeter. I thought they started very well last year, but then in that middle period, it was quite poor, but then they managed to recover towards the end. I think with Exeter, and I've noticed quite a few other people have also said this, every single year they lose their best players and they have to rebuild and go again. And I feel like that type of football model, it can only last for so long. If you're not progressing as a football club, you're just either going to stay still or you're going to go downwards. And I just think it's just getting to the point when it's just going to be too much for them. So that's why I've pretty much put them down as one of the teams to get relegated. Also, looking at their recruitment, they've brought in a lot of loans in. They are relying on those loan players to have instant success, which I think is risky business. I think they lack quality. So yeah, I've put Exeter as one of the teams I think is going to get relegated from League One in this upcoming year. The second team that I think are going to get relegated from League One is Northampton. Now, as someone who supports a team down south, I don't want to predict the southern teams to get relegated. League One has far too many northern clubs already. But the southern teams, I don't have high hopes this year, I have to be honest with you. But yeah, Northampton, Nolan managed to keep Northampton up last year. In his past two jobs, what I've noticed is he starts well, but then it falls off towards the end. And I feel like this might happen at Northampton. I think they lack goals. I don't know where they're going to score their goals. The only player I can see in their team that can hit double figures is Cameron McGeehan. He's a goal-scoring midfielder. But apart from that, I don't see other players contributing as much. So, due to that reason, I think Northampton are going to go down. The third club that I have relegated from League One is AFC Wimbledon. I think they've got a fantastic defence. You look at what happened last year in League Two. They pretty much won promotion with one of the best defences in the league. Their home record was really, really good. Very tough to beat at home. So if they can try and replicate that in this year, they would stand a chance. I had AFC Wimbledon between potentially staying up but also going down. They're in that little bracket. I think they can stay up, but my biggest worry for them is, can they score goals? Just like Northampton, do they have enough goals in their team? I think defensively, I think they can be okay, and that could help them managing to get some draws at tough places and being really tough to beat. But I think they're also relying all their key players, all their main players to stay fit throughout the year. I don't think they have enough quality in depth to stay up. So that's why I think they're going to get relegated. I think if they have a really lucky year in terms of not having many injuries and they can find a way to score goals, then 100% I think they can stay up. But they've got to rely on players keeping fit. And, I don't know if that's going to happen this year. And then the fourth club, which I've got relegated from League One, is Burton. Now, it was actually between Burton and Peterborough, if I'm being honest with you. With Burton, I think because they've lost Burrell recently, I don't know how they're going to score goals. I like their midfield in Webster in the midfield, but I just don't know how much magic Gary Bowyer has left in him. Now, Burton last year, the second half of the season was outstanding. From having such a poor first half of the year to them being able to recover to stay up in the division was just amazing. But similar to Exeter, how often can you keep going again, keep rebuilding? They're not the biggest club in the league. I can't imagine finances are up there. So how do you slowly progress up that division if your key players keep leaving the football club? And then what you're doing is you're relying on, if you do have a poor season, someone else coming in, have a bit of magic, and then by some miracle you stay up. You can't keep doing that every year. There's got to be some steady progression. And I just think time is running out for clubs like that. You can't keep doing that. That model is not going to work. So I've got Burton just about floating between being relegated and potentially staying up. It's between them and Peterborough for me. I've already mentioned their name, but Peterborough, I have them struggling this season. They could potentially get relegated. I have them just staying up, but I think they're still at risk of going down. Lost a lot of key players last year. And the recruitment-wise, I just don't think they've replaced those key players. Now, I understand the Peterborough model, sign young players, then sell them on. It's all good doing that. But if you're going to be a club that's going to try and progress up the leagues and challenge for those playoff positions, you kind of need players to stay around. You need experience within your team. And I just don't think they've got enough experience. I think the players they've brought in might not be ready for this year. They might be ready for next season. So I think there's a big question mark whether or not they're going to be ready. And if you think about it, they lost a lot of key players last year. Poku left, Ricky J. Jones, for example. They left the football club and they still had a poor year last year with them players in the team. So is there a guarantee that Peterborough are going to stay up this year? I don't think so. So I do worry for them. I don't know how this transfer model is going to keep working for them. I get it why they keep doing it. Sunderland have a similar model, but they still had experience that helped them win promotion. And I think Peterborough, they need to be able to keep players for a little bit longer to just help them. The next club that I have just staying up in League One next year is Port Vale. Now, I made a video, it must have been over a month ago, talking about if there are potentially any dark horses that could potentially get those playoff positions. And I did have Port Vale and Bradford. The recruitment at the time when I made that video was quite good. Port Vale haven't quite recruited as much since I made that video. They've got a lot of the same players from last season still at the club. I like Darren Moore, done very well in the third division of English football with Sheffield Wednesday. I really like him. I think he's got more than enough to keep Port Vale up. I think with what they've got, they should stay up this season, but they might be dragged into a relegation scrap. But they could easily, be a mid-table side as well. So I've got them bottom half of League One, and I don't think that's a bad season to have in your first season back in the third division. The next club that I have, which could be quite similar to Peterborough, is Rotherham. Lost a lot of key players from last season. I don't think they have much squad depth, and they definitely are lacking a lot of quality. They signed quite a lot of players last summer under Steve Evans, as we all know. It hasn't quite worked out. Maybe a mix of different characters within the dressing room. I think the biggest task will be to try and create a positive environment. Playing under a new manager, can they do that? He's unproven at this level. I just don't really have any high hopes for Rotherham this year. I just think there's so many teams that will just finish above them in the league. And then finally, the last club that I have just floating above those relegation places, potentially might be in a relegation scrap, is Doncaster. Again, they've kept majority of their players, which I think helps when you win promotion, keeping the core foundations of the squad. They've added a few experienced players from League One in Matty Pearson, who I think is a fantastic signing. McCann, I think is a really good manager. He's very ambitious. I think they've got more than enough to stay up in the league. And again, just like Port Vale, floating above those relegation places, staying up in your first year, I don't think is a bad season. Moving on to the teams that I think are going to finish mid-table in League One this year, and the first one I've got is Mansfield. I think Mansfield have got some really good players. I really like the recruitment which they've done in this summer window. Sweeney, Roberts, Bolton. I think they can score goals. I think the question mark would be, can they stop conceding them? And if they can, then they might have a chance in maybe pushing even further up the league. I like Nigel Clough. I think he's a really good manager. I think a lot of his stuff he does goes under the radar a little bit. Last season, Mansfield started the season off extremely well, using the promotion momentum into the new year, which helped them. But then the second half of the year, they weren't quite the same team. Whether or not that would continue, I'm not too sure. But I think they've just got more than enough to stay up and have a really solid season. Another solid mid-table finish in League One. The next club I have finishing in mid-table is Bradford. I like their manager in Graham Alexander. They've got a lot of experience in that team. I think the home crowd are going to be so important. They were absolutely key in their promotion from League 2 to League 1. Bradford they managed to finally win promotion from League 2. I like their recruitment. Away from home, the form wasn't great, so they do need to fix that. But again, just like Port Vale, just like Doncaster, first season back in the third division, stay up, build, go again, and steady progression up the league. I don't think finishing mid-table is a bad year for Bradford. Now, the next club I've got finishing mid-table, I've just got so many unknowns with them. I just don't know what to expect, and that is Barnsley. Now, again, young manager, not really proven in League One. They've got McGoldrick, who they signed at the age of 37. Regardless of his age, I still think that is a good signing. He can definitely do it at this level. His technical ability is just amazing, and I just love watching him play. He's such a good player. I don't know if they can get playoffs. I think there's goals. I can see them scoring. I just don't know if they can stop them going in. Very similar to Mansfield. I don't know what to expect with Barnsley. I need to see what they can do. Once I've seen what they can do on the pitch, then I can go, right, I think they can achieve this goal. But I really don't know what to expect with Barnsley this year. I can expect a lot of players scoring some screamers because they've got so many players in their team that love a shot from distance. Another club that I also have plenty of question marks over and whether or not they could potentially chase for those playoff positions is Wigan. Now, Wigan, I think the last 2 years have been quite boring to watch, and I think Wigan fans would also admit this. I think defensively, they've got strong foundations in place. They just lack goals. They lack that excitement, and I just don't know if they've got goals in their team. Now, they've tried to address this. They've brought in Paul Mullin, for example, from Wrexham. Whether or not he can be the man to score the goals, there is still a question mark there. But they've brought in Ryan Lowe, who has done well at this level in the past. His Plymouth team, his Bury team, they play this attractive style of football. Preston, he wasn't able to play the attractive style. So if he can replicate what he did at Plymouth, at Wigan, Ryan Lowe, then I can see Wigan challenging potentially this season. But I just don't know if they've got enough attacking end product in order to compete with the teams that I've got challenging at the top end. Reading is also another club that I've got finishing mid-table. Now, Reading, with the new owners, there's a good feel-good factor back at the football club. I was so impressed with what Reading did last year. It's so difficult when you've got off the pitch drama, there's so much going on. You can sometimes forget what the task is, and that's to win football matches on the pitch. But despite what was going on, the noise in the background, they had a very good season. Ruben Selles also leaving the football club. They still carried on doing well. They also had 1 or 2 players leave in the January window, carried on doing well. So you like to think maybe this year, now they got new owners, wonder if they could actually have an even better season. Now, hopefully the new owners, it doesn't bring expectation. Now, there might be a lot of damage from what the previous owners did. So there might be a lot of, I guess this year could be a transitional year. And that might mean that some things might not be able to happen straight away, like sign so many players. So I think with Reading this year, it might just be a transitional year, finish mid-table, but then next year proper go for those playoff positions once the new owners have kind of settled in, managed to get a grip of everything around the football club, and just really build those foundations in place. You don't want to win promotion without those foundations. It's so important to have them because otherwise you can have a mixed season the following year. You kind of want to do steady progression. That's how I think it's the best way to go about things. Hopefully expectations are not too high at Reading, but having a solid year would be the smart option, I think. And the last club that I have finishing mid-table, but I've also put like in brackets potential playoff chasers, is Stevenage. I think they are going under the radar a little bit, especially amongst football fans in the EFL. I think in front of goal, they needed to improve, and they have done exactly that. Their recruitment was good. They have improved those attacking areas. I thought defensively, they were quite solid. They had a really good, strong foundations in place at the back. So it's whether or not the new signings, can they hit the ground running and get the goals? If they can, then I think Stevenage have a chance in chasing for those playoff positions. They also do need to improve on their record against the top teams in the division, as that's what also let them down last year. So the first team that I have that could potentially challenge for those playoff positions is Lincoln, but only if they can keep their squad fit throughout the year. Sonny Bradley at the back, he brings experience, won promotion at this level. You've got James Collins in attack, who doesn't need many chances. He can score goals at this level, also won promotion as well. So you've got experience all over the pitch. You've got some younger players as well. But I think with Lincoln, it only needs a couple of injuries and then your season might start dipping. I think you've got enough only if the whole squad can keep fit. But I like what I see at Lincoln, one of the smallest budgets in the league, punching way above their weight. I think they're doing a fantastic job there. They rely on recruitment quite heavily in order to progress. I think they have a chance at chasing for those playoffs. But like I said, it does depend on if they get any injuries or not. The second club that I have potentially challenging for those playoff positions is Leyton Orient. Now, last year, fantastic season, getting into the playoffs. A lot of their players were loan players who are no longer at the football club. A couple of their first team players have also moved on as well. So they're pretty much restarting and going again. Now, their recruitment I do like. You brought the likes of Karoma in attack, Connolly up top as well. It's just whether or not those new signings can hit the ground running. If they can hit the ground running, then of course I can see Leyton Orient challenging. But it might take some time. And I can see the first half of the season being a challenge, but then Leyton Orient getting a lot better as the season goes on. But whether or not they can catch up in time will be a different story altogether. I like what I see at Leyton Orient. It's just going to be really tough to repeat what they did last season. And that kind of does apply to Wycombe. But with Wycombe, I'm not a fan of Mike Dodds. I'm really not a fan. I found the manager appointment quite strange. And I also think if he starts the season off poorly, I can see a manager change happening. He comes across to me as more of a yes man, someone that doesn't challenge certain decisions. The recruitment as well, it's very interesting. Let me put it at that. There's a lot of unknowns. We just don't know what some of these players can do at this level. They might surprise us. They might just be terrible signings. But I feel like the players might do something. And that's why I've got Wycombe where they are. Of course, they still got some of the players from last season still with them. They've got a big squad. And I think that helps, when you might get injuries throughout the season. I just feel like they are going to be there. I just don't know how much of a challenge they're going to be because of Mike Dodds. I don't rate him. I don't get him. So, yeah, I don't really know what to expect from Wycombe this year, but I do think they're going to be around those playoff positions, potentially challenge for them. But yeah, because I don't rate Mike Dodds, I just don't know what to expect from Wycombe this year. Again, another club which I need to see do something in order to have some real conviction on where I think they're going to finish. The next club I've got is Cardiff, at potentially being one of the teams competing for the playoffs. Now with Cardiff, they lack recruitment so far in this summer window. Brian Barry Murphy is this young coach, but is he this great manager / head coach now? He's worked with so many elite players, especially at Man City. But back to reality with a third division side, is he going to be able to perform something special? There's also a takeover potentially going to happen at Cardiff as well. I think If a takeover does happen, that will completely change my thoughts on them. But yeah, I'm 50-50 on Cardiff, whether or not I actually think they can challenge for those playoffs. Also, I don't think their squad is that good compared to the teams I've actually put in the playoffs myself. So I think they lack a little bit more quality, and whether or not they can do that before the window closes, we'll soon find out. So let's talk about the teams that I've put in those playoffs for now. At 6th place, I've put Plymouth. Now, I think Tom Cleverley, I like him as a manager. He done very well at Watford, harshly sacked again at that football club. I think he gets the best out of players. Now, Plymouth have lost a lot of key players, and that's why I have them finishing 6th rather than a lot higher up in the league. But they have made some good signings. They need a reset. They need a season where they've not got too much drama happening off the pitch, especially in the manager department. They obviously had Rooney and then the previous boss going to Schalke. So a nice season of no manager change, not too much drama. And I think Plymouth, even if they don't go up this year, I think having a year of finding your feet again and then going again the following year might be the better option. At 5th place, I've put Blackpool. I've already made a video about Blackpool this season, so if you haven't seen that, make sure you go and check that out. Steve Bruce has done a fantastic job, and I think he's just going to build on from what he did last year. Blackpool last season, they scored goals for fun. It was conceding goals that were a problem. They've kind of sorted that out by signing some good players in defence, bringing in players from the Championship down to League One as well. Yes, Aptar and Carey have also gone. So I think they need a couple more additions in attack, and they will be a real force this year. They've got good midfielders. I struggle to not see Blackpool in the playoffs. I think they're going to finish in those playoffs by the end of the year. In 4th place, I've got Bolton. I like Stephen Schumacher. I really like him. I think he's completely different to Ian Evatt in terms of character. I think his biggest task will be to create a positive atmosphere in the dressing room. He's got a good squad there. You know, there's potential for Bolton to do extremely well. They needed to let a couple of big names go, like Baxter in goal, Santos at the back, Collins up top. But overall, the squad's more than capable, in my opinion, at challenging. Recruitment's been good as well. I expect Bolton to be in the playoffs this year. Now, in 3rd place, just missing out on the top 2, I've got Huddersfield. The reason for this is because it's a brand new team pretty much. Loads of new players have come in the summer window. They have been very active. Alfie May being one of the statement signings of the summer in League One. They've brought in, Harness from the Championship down to League One, Ryan Ledson as well. There is quality all over the pitch. My biggest question mark is Lee Grant, first job in management. Is he going to hit the ground running? And also, how quick can all these new players gel together? When you've got a new squad and you make loads of signings, sometimes you don't hit the ground running straight away. It sometimes gets better as the season goes on. So my question mark is, how quick can this squad gel? If they can gel quick, then they challenge for the top 2. But if it takes some time, I just don't see them challenging for the top 2 because I think the gap will be there. That's just my only problem with Huddersfield. But I still expect them to be challenging at the very top. Very good summer window. So, as you can tell, I've left the 2 teams that have the nickname Hatters in their name. And yeah, it's Stockport and Luton who I think are going to be getting automatic promotion. I think Luton will win the league. I think Stockport, they have such a solid team. Ethan Pye, solid defender at this level. Norwood in the midfield. Kyle Wootton in attack. Dave Channonall as manager. He's such a great manager. He always builds really good teams. Their recruitment's been amazing. They get stronger. He will identify what the weaknesses are from last season. I can see Stockport being a massive problem. And because they've got majority of their core at the football club still there, that's why I'm giving them more of an advantage over Huddersfield, because Huddersfield have new players. Stockport have still got some of the older players still at the football club, so that helps in transitioning into a new season. So I think Stockport, they have a slight advantage over Huddersfield, but I don't think their squad is better than Luton's squad. And that's why I think Luton are going to be challenging for the league, because of how good our squad is at the moment. Even in depth, we've got so much quality all over the pitch. Our recruitment as well, I think, has been quite good. We have parachute payments, which gives us a financial advantage over some teams in the league. So I think on top of that, with Matt Bloomfield being very good at this level, I think we've got everything in place to challenge for the title. And if Luton are not challenging for the title, something has gone horribly wrong again. So hopefully we can correct the poor decisions which we've made over the last 2 years, make them right this year, and then hopefully win instant promotion back to the Championship. But we are a striker away from being able to do that. So that is the end of today's video of me giving you my predictions for this upcoming League One season. Just remember, these are predictions. Do not get offended. I've got nothing against your club. The only club I do not really like is Watford, and they don't play in League One this year. So honestly, I don't mean to cause any offence. It's just a prediction. Good luck this year. Hopefully your club does achieve what it needs to do. And yeah, it's going to be a very exciting League One season, I believe. I think the top end, it can potentially be wide open, especially for that last playoff spot. I think there's lots of teams that can compete for it. And I think as well, down at the bottom, there's also lots of teams that I think will be fighting for relegation, trying to stay up in this upcoming season. So yeah, lots to hopefully talk about throughout the year. Subscribe for Luton and EFL content on my channel. I'm sure I'll be making videos about every team in this league at some point throughout the season. So please subscribe if you are new. And yeah, smash that like button. Let me know your predictions down in the video comments. And I'll see you all in the next one.